Hey guys, my name is Kyla Prince. I am a drag queen trapped in a cis woman's body, a performing woman who is performing woman. And I wanted to talk to you today about something that I've been promising to blog and write and video about for a little while. So the other night I was reading Drive by Daniel Pink. Dan is the author of several well-respected best-selling books, with Drive being one of the most seminal on motivation. Dan's work is highly acclaimed in the business world, and he speaks at conferences and on TV, the radio, podcasts, etc. to rapt audiences who want to hear his thoughts on inspiring intrinsic motivation. Okay, so it blows my mind that people are willing to pay thousands of dollars to have him, rightfully, come speak at a conference and then buy the books and try to build their business models around his recommendations on intrinsic motivation, all while wearing a FitBit, which is the most ubiquitous extrinsic motivator that we have for fitness on the market. So when it comes to business, employers will expound on their attempts to bring purpose to the organization and to motivate people to become better and more engaged employees through intrinsic motivation. But when it comes to fitness, those very same people will dig in their heels and just staunchly assert that the only way to improve health is to be extrinsically motivated. Intrinsic motivation is when you pursue an activity or a behavior because you take enjoyment in it or you find it interesting. You generally want to do a thing because it excites you, and the reward itself is the pursuit of the activity or the behavior. Extrinsic motivation, however, is when you pursue an activity or a behavior in order to receive a reward or avoid a punishment. You may actually enjoy the activity while you're doing it, but you may not be motivated to do it without that promise of reward or punishment. And this is why I hate Fitbits, calorie counters, any kind of fitness tracker, pedometer, etc. I hate accountability as a concept for healthy behavior because this kind of motivation is all extrinsic. If you need accountability to get up from your desk to take a walk, then you probably really didn't want to take the walk. If you need accountability to go to the gym, then there's a good chance that activity wasn't really something you wanted to do in the first place. If you need accountability to eat certain foods, then it's probable you didn't want to eat them anyway. And before you argue that, well, once you get the motivation to go to the gym, you really enjoy yourself, it's just that you needed that first push. Well, let me disabuse you of the notion that you needed the push and that was all it took. So in Drive, Dan Pink talks about a study done by Edward Deci, and I hope I'm pronouncing it right, in the very first chapter, in which two groups of participants were given a series of puzzles to do on 3 separate occasions. On the first day, they had to do a couple of puzzles, and then they had like an 8-minute break while the researcher left the room to upload the results to a computer, i.e. go watch what people did from behind a one-way glass in the 8-minute interval. So during the break, people in both groups continued to play with the puzzles because they were genuinely interested for like 3.5 to 4 minutes on average. Okay, on day 2, one group was given extrinsic motivation, monetary compensation for finishing the puzzles. They predictably were more interested in playing with the puzzles during the break. In fact, they played for 5 minutes this time, which is 1.5 minutes longer. The other group, non-paid, they played for about the same time that they had on the first day. Now, if we were to stop the study here, you'd just be saying, Kyla, you're an idiot. Don't you see that the people needed extrinsic motivation? They were so excited about the reward that it made them play for longer. It made them more interested. But were they genuinely interested in the activity or in the reward? So day 3, the researchers say to group 1, sorry, we can't pay you again. We only had enough to pay you yesterday. And remember, Group 2 was never paid, nor do they even know that payment is an option. So during the break, the group that was paid before, but wasn't being paid this time, played way less with the puzzles. They played for 2 minutes less than on the day that they had been paid, and a full minute less than the first day when they didn't even know that payment was an option. So they actually lost intrinsic motivation because they learned that the activity itself wasn't a reward. The payment for the activity was the reward. Side note, the group that was never paid, played more during the break on the last day. Now, Dan Pink posits that it could be like a statistical blip, or it could just be indicative of the fact that they were cultivating their genuine interest in the activity and just found it rewarding to spend more time on it. So, let's go back to fitness and trackers. Even if at one point in your life you did find genuine interest in like lifting weights or going for a run or taking a walk, now that you have been taught that there are rewards built in that you have to receive by performing the activity, it's possible that the genuine interest has waned, and now you need to be motivated extrinsically because you no longer know how to access your intrinsic motivation. So that's why gamification, the way we understand it, is a problem. Gamification is a concept that has become more and more popular as we, in Western society at least, become more and more separated from our own intuitions through external dependence on other people and products to tell us how to think or act. Wikipedia defines gamification as the application of typical elements of a game, playing like point scoring, competition with others, rules of play, to other areas of activity, typically as an online marketing technique to encourage engagement with a product or service. FitBits are a prime example of this. You have daily goals that you have to meet, and you score points or get rewards like badges when you go over and above those goals. And because everything has to be social these days, you are also given a platform for competing with others. Now, you might argue, well, yeah, but it's getting me up and out, and once I'm up and out, I realize that fitness is fun. So it's teaching intrinsic motivation, right? Wrong. It's not. Because accountability is about punishment and reward. You become dependent upon it. And what if the rewards get boring or don't come often enough? Or they lose their appeal because you've already won them so many times already? Or the reward seeking becomes punishment in and of itself, and you start to resent the accountability that the rewards provide. Last year, I wrote an article for Everyday Feminism where I quoted a study that had recently been released on FitBit users. So I'm going to quote myself to make a point here. Okay, the study said that 79% of women actually said they felt pressure to hit their daily targets, while nearly 60% felt like their daily routines were controlled by their Fitbit. 43% felt like they'd wasted their efforts if they had forgotten to wear their Fitbit while doing an activity. So, the reward became a punishment because they felt pressured and controlled by this accountability too. The reward also became more important than the activity because they felt like their efforts, the activity, were a waste of time without the reward. I know several people who have told me that they actually walk around their house in circles late at night because they haven't met their steps for the day. They walk in circles, like around their bedroom or the living room, to meet counts or to beat someone else's score, instead of doing literally anything else. Not because walking in circles around a room is fun, but they are reward seeking or punishment avoiding. Take away the Fitbit, and I guarantee that no one is trying to beat their friends' unmeasurable activities for the day, right? It just doesn't make any sense. So how do we inspire or teach intrinsic motivation around fitness when we've been unlearning our own intuition? Well, sure, gamification can work, but not the way that we've conceptualized it through tools like Fitbit, where the fitness is the activity and the reward. That's actually why I love Pokemon Go. Okay, hear me out before you tune me out. It does gamification of fitness right. It may be the only app I've ever seen that encourages people to go out and exercise while being social. All other apps are like social and encouraging, but they encourage isolation, unhealthy competition, and shame. Pokemon Go encourages people to get out and exercise without actually telling them that they're exercising, right? Without holding them accountable for exercise. Right, walking is one of the best exercises you can do. And no, it's not going to get you a six-pack, but you're going to get vitamin D and healthy movement, which is what our bodies need. The game also doesn't track your steps all day long, right? It doesn't give you a number that you have to beat in order to be considered properly active for the day, right? Forcing you to think about fitness all day and feel agitated when you can't be getting out, getting steps, or shame when you don't want to go engage in fitness or movement. it does have a pedometer embedded in the game, but you have to A, choose to use it, and B, only use it when the game is open. So you do get rewards for walking, but again, it doesn't give you the reward because you're walking. You get a reward because that's part of the game. You only get these rewards when you're out exploring Pokestops, finding new Pokemon, or hatching an egg using that built-in pedometer feature. And what's cool is you don't even have to use the pedometer if you don't want to. And as a note, the pedometer, for those who actually are unfamiliar with the game, it doesn't track your steps. It just tracks distance walked. So if you're incubating an egg that you found, you have this set number of kilometers that you can walk before it hatches. You can be walking multiple eggs at once, so you don't have to walk like 5 kilometers and then do another 10 kilometers, for example, to hatch 2 eggs. And while this might encourage some compulsive walking to hatch an egg, it at least doesn't heighten that compulsiveness by forcing you to hatch one egg after another, so you're doing like 15 kilometers at the same time, right? The game also doesn't encourage unhealthy competition in the sense that you feel like you have to beat other people's steps. You can go sit in a park or be the passenger in a car, if that's how you want to go get your Pokemon, and you can still do just as well. You don't have to hurt yourself to win against your friends, and you don't actually get rewards by walking in circles around your apartment. To play, you have to be out in the world. So it's great for getting people to be social and not social. What I mean by this is that you might encounter other game players while you're out on your walk. I talked to a dude on a skateboard who was super excited that I was Team Valor too. Go Red Team, right? A group of tech bros who actually set up a tent at a park in Silicon Valley. A father and his daughter who were searching for Pokemon in my neighborhood while I walked my dog, etc. Fitness apps can be used on a treadmill or in isolation, and they encourage you to be social by sharing on social media so that you can document how good you were by exercising that day. Pokemon Go actually forces you to socialize, even if it's just as much as a knowing nod at the other guy who's also walking his dog at 10 p.m. with his face buried in his phone. And, if you do post on social media, the only accolades you're looking for are the ones for that great picture of a Growlithe that was sitting on your bed. I see Pokemon Go as a really great way to encourage people to engage in healthy fitness without going to competitive or shameful extremes. It keeps people engaged because, unlike in steps and badges, you're rewarded in Pokemon and experiences. You're intrinsically motivated to go for a walk, not because you're going to get a pat on the head for going for a walk, but because the activity you're doing while you go for the walk is so interesting. Yeah, okay, no, it's not 100% intrinsic motivation, right? We have a lot of unlearning to do when it comes to the conveniences we've had that have eroded our intuition. But if you think about it, Pokemon Go is loaded with Pokestops at interesting landmarks. So let's say that you go out and play and you end up walking into an area that you've only ever driven past before. And then, you start to get to know all the cool things that the area offers. A neat mural, a coffee shop you've never seen before, a park that was hidden from view. You may just want to walk back there to experience it, even if you aren't playing a game. And, no one feels punished for having to go out and play, because nobody says you have to. Most people feel like they have to do fitness and they have to perform healthy. Even if no one's actually forcing them, it's just kind of culturally accepted. But literally no one's saying, I'm only playing because I'm going to be socially ostracized if I didn't catch 6 Pidgeys in an Eevee today, right? If you have to have a fitness tracker and you have to have a reason to get up and move, I would personally choose Pokemon Go over a Fitbit any day. And if Pokemon isn't your thing because, you've figured out adulting or whatever, well, good for you, right? Find a form of fitness that you would do even if you weren't being rewarded or punished for it. If it is just walking, find ways to make it enjoyable. Put on a podcast or an audiobook. Or if walking isn't your jam, go dance. And it doesn't have to be pole and burlesque like I do. Go join a social dance club and go do swing or ballroom, right? Find a way to be structured without feeling structured, right? Relearn how to listen to your intuition. Make your fitness play so that you find enjoyment in the activity itself, not in the number of likes or badges that you get for engaging. And if you're going to gamify, marketers, make it intrinsic. Make it a game, not a competition. Make it fun and not accountability. If you don't like going to the real gym, why not go walk to a Pokemon gym, right? And if you do make it Pokemon, may I suggest joining Team Valor? Okay. For hate mail, questions, or praise, you can find me at performingwoman.com or on pick your social media at performingwoman. And you can also come dance with me at performingwoman.com/dance/classes. Or otherwise, I'll see you outside. I heard a rumor that there are Squirtles in the park.